god. I literally have the worst allergies, and like, I don't know, I've never had them like this before. It is horrible. Okay. Hi, my name is Helen. Welcome to Making a Musician. Today I wanted to talk about some of the advice I would give to people who are thinking about starting going to music school. So whether you are, you know, maybe returning to music school, it didn't go well the first time, or you had to take a break for some reason, maybe you're a high school senior, maybe you're a high school junior and you're not sure what you're doing, but you still want to like get a jump on it. You know, maybe you're like older and you want to go to school and you find you're really passionate about music and you want to return to education in that capacity. All reasons for going to school are valid, and I am a recent music degree recipient. These are some of the things that I wish people had told me when I was embarking on my journey to get a music degree. I think that for me, ultimately, it was a really good choice. I love music, I love my degree, I love the subject that I'm in, and I am actively employed in my degree area, which is vocal performance. So that's good. I would say I'm very successful in my career so far, like 4 months after graduating. It's strange to get a degree in music. It's a strange experience because, oh hi Middleton, that's a cat. If you are getting a business degree, you can go online and find like 10,000 videos of people explaining their experiences at different universities and different classes they took and exactly what that was like, what they recommend starting out. You can find all this information. And I find that when you're getting a music degree, it's just there's not as much out there to help you. And it can be a very daunting thing. It can be scary to get a degree in something that's kind of like a non-traditional field. You're thinking like, oh my god, am I just like throwing money away? What am I doing? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what I wish someone had told me. Now, I come from a family of musicians. My father is a musician, my mother's a musician, they both have music degrees. And so when I was starting my degree, I had very clear expectations set by my family. And I was already very aware of about like what I thought a music degree was going to look like, and for the most part I was correct. But I was talking to one of my very good friends, and she was talking about like, I didn't even know I had to audition. And I think that there's a lot of things that people don't tell you, and if you don't come from a family of musicians, there's a lot of things that, how would you know how that works if no one's ever told you? So hi, it's me, and I'm here to tell you today. This has been a long introduction. Let's get into it. Okay. I have some of these broken down by like type of advice, category, and then some of it is just like very general and does not fit into a category whatsoever. Okay, so I want to say I think I want to make a separate video on finding the right teacher for you and how to go about doing that in university, because I had a wonderful experience finding and getting a voice teacher in university, and that is not the case for a lot of people. So I would love to make a video on how I was very successful with that, but that is a huge topic and I think we should get in that a different day. But what I will say is research the faculty and figure out who you think you would jive with the best and reach out to that person. Okay, so let's just like jump in. My first piece of advice is finding your classes early. So university campuses can be very difficult to navigate. I remember at ASU, my first semester, all of my roommates and I, who they were not musicians, just like drove to campus one day, maybe the weekend before classes started, and literally we walked around the entire campus. It's a huge campus. I was very sunburned by the end of it, and we found all of our courses, and that made day one, or like the whole first week, so much less stressful because I knew where I was going. Especially like music classes are sometimes like in kind of weird areas. At least at my university, for the music building, we had 3 major buildings, and so it would be really confusing because you're like, I'm going to the 5th floor, but like of which building? And the number of times I would be like on campus and just see somebody like not in the right building, freaking out, trying to find their oral skills class. It's 7 in the morning. Like there's like a 19-year-old crying in the hallway because they just need to go sing like a D major scale and like a scale in thirds and they can't find the room. So find your classes early. The other thing is make sure you like living with your roommates. When I went to university, I decided to move into a house where I had roommates, and I would say it was actually a pretty good situation. I did like them, but there were just some lifestyle differences that made it so ultimately we decided like not to continue sharing a living space. If you live with your family, like, I hope you like them, I hope you get along with them well. But yeah, I would make sure you like your roommates and that you are in a place where you can practice and get all the work you need to get done. That is a big deal, because there is always a shortage of practice rooms. I don't care where you go to school, there are not enough practice rooms, and you will be fighting people, and you will be waiting at least 45 minutes in the hallways sometimes trying to get a room. This is like, I feel like I'm like talking to little me like 5 years ago, and I just want to hold her face and say, get a theory tutor. Because, okay, music theory is kind of like the math of music, but in a way where it's like I was always doing math and I was like, when will I actually use this in my life? And music theory I use in my day-to-day life as a musician, like, constantly. So it is actually useful. But if you struggled in math, I think you're probably going to struggle in music theory. Get a tutor. I was always very afraid to say I didn't know what was going on because I felt like it made me a bad musician and that people wouldn't respect me and they would just think I was a freaking idiot. And that's not the case. Nobody cares if you need a music theory tutor. So they're free through the university. I would literally talk to the professor on day one and say like, hey, can you tell me what the plan is for music theory tutors? I really want to make sure that I'm successful in this class. Set up a meeting with a tutor, especially right now, like you can do everything online. You don't even have to leave your house. Like I used to have to go to the library and have some girl who was very nice explain solfege like intervals. But anyways, yes, just get a tutor so that you don't start out behind. I swear to God, Helen 4 years ago, we could have done so much. We could have been so great. So my next piece of advice is to get really good at saying no. In college, you're gonna get a lot of people constantly wanting you to do things. And in the beginning, I took on way too many things. I was just like an absolute yes woman. And I ended up kind of burning out, and I was like, I don't understand why, but also anytime anybody ever asked me to do anything, I was like, absolutely. So get good at saying no. That's a big reality of being a musician, and music university school, that is absolutely the time to start with your very kind, very direct no. Just saying, oh yeah, I can't make that work in my schedule, thank you so much, and leaving. Let's talk about like musicianship skills. So I would say before you go to music school, obviously if you're a pianist this doesn't really apply to you, but just like learning your major, minor chords, all of them. I was shocked by the number of people that got to music school and didn't know how to do that, because you have to take class piano. That is a requirement. And so yeah, just the number of people that really struggled in class piano for a semester because they couldn't do that. Do yourself a favor. If you're hanging out in the band room at lunch with all your homies, just like start learning your chords. My next piece of advice would be to practice scales and key signatures if that's something that you're not already super comfortable in. Music is not like other degrees where they expect you to know nothing and they teach you. Day one in music, there's an expectation that you know a lot. And so, I mean, I was proficient in like key signatures and scales and all that. And it wasn't an issue for me, but I know a lot of people who had a really hard time because when they started music school, they were not good at that kind of stuff. They didn't know like basic music theory in the sense of like note reading, reading rhythm. I would just get really comfortable with those. I would make myself flashcards if I was starting now about like what is the key signature and then relative and parallel minor keys. My advice, and don't roast me, I know how y'all like to tussle, would be to take AP Music Theory and also Music Theory when you get to college. So for me, Music Theory was really hard. I was really confused. Like we already established, I spent a lot of time pretending like I knew what was going on when I didn't, and it was not a vibe. And my school didn't actually offer AP Music Theory. What I would have done in that instance is taken it at a community college. So if your high school or institution, wherever you're currently at, doesn't offer music theory, I would take it at the community college level, and then I would still take music theory at your university though, because music theory is where I made all of my friends in college. It is the one class where every single music major is in a room together, and that is how you're going to get to know your friends. That is how you're going to meet everyone. And I just always remember like this sense of like distrust whenever I met someone who I had not known from music theory. I was like, I've never seen you before. You are not a student here. what are you doing? And a lot of the times they'd be like, oh my god, no, like, I just like tested out of AP Music Theory, like I got like a 900,000% on my exam in high school, and so I didn't take it. And just take it. Just take the music theory class. It's a great way to make friends. I know it's early in the morning, and I was lucky. I had mostly good music theory teachers. I had a couple professors that were a flop, but for the most part, really, really awesome. Let's talk about networking. So if you're going into music school, I would recommend joining Facebook pages for musicians of your school. I promise your university has the music students have made several Facebook pages. Like ASU, we have like ASU School of Music Courtyard, and then we have like a singer page. I'm sure that like the Collaborative Piano Studio has a Facebook page. I'm sure that like most studios have a Facebook page. I know my private studio that I was in had a Facebook page. So join the Facebook group so that you can like start to meet people. You can make a post that's like, hey, are there any like incoming freshmen that want to like go get coffee this Tuesday? I'm looking forward to meeting some of you guys. Because it's nice, like even the people that you start like meeting in university, they might not all end up being your best friends, but it's very helpful to have some friends off the bat. It makes you feel a lot more secure. I would also post on there and say like, hey, this is my name. I'm coming in as a freshman. I am looking to buy these textbooks. If you want to sell them, please sell them to me. And you can get your textbooks for mad cheap because music textbooks can be so expensive. And like, for what? The other piece of networking advice I have is to email your professors after the first class. I always do this. I think it's really helpful to connect with your professors. That way they know who you are. You're gonna enjoy the class more because you have a rapport with the teacher. And like, I don't know, I just enjoy getting to know people. So I would email your professors after the first class, introducing yourself. And I would also say something that you found interesting about the course or something you learned. Let's go into the class with the mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna jot down one thing that I want to email them about. Or you can ask them a question. You're like, hey, I didn't understand what you meant when you referred to a certain kind of chord. Would I be able to swing by office hours and ask about that? Because also if you have something come up, like a professor is not going to make an allowance probably for a student that they don't know. Like, I don't know, if something happens, like I would have like while we were all quarantining and taking classes remotely, there was like a renovation being done in my house and the Wi-Fi would go out and I had to email my professor and be like, I am so sorry, but I cannot make it today. Like, and I sent them like a picture of the trench in the yard. I was like, I cannot get into class. And that professor and I had a really good rapport. She knew me and she was like, oh my gosh, do not worry about it. Like, I'll send you class notes. Like, don't freak out. So I absolutely recommend you do that. Very helpful. Okay, so let's talk about, drumroll please, money. My first step would be to save money before you go to school. So I would save money before you go to school and have just like, I don't know, like a sinking fund kind of vibe where you're constantly throwing money into it, and then you pull money out of it. Because even if you're not paying like bills from adulthood, you're still doing things like going out to eat with your friends, maybe like throwing parties, so basic stuff like that. So saving money, and then learning to budget. Oh my god, y'all, here's the time where I tell you my sob story about music school. So I went to school and I moved in with 3 other girls. They were super nice, 4 of us in the house. I wasn't making like a ton of money. Obviously, like I would gig every once in a while, but I wasn't making like huge money, which is fine. And they made not a ton of money, but definitely a lot more money than I was making. And oh my god, the amount of money that these girls would spend on food, and I would spend on food as well. I think, like, I only lived in that house for like 6 months, and I had like over $2,000 in like savings, and I think I blew through that in like the first like 4 months of living there, because we were constantly eating, we were constantly spending money on stuff, like going shopping, just like dumb purchases that like now as a grown woman I'm like, I would not buy that. Why was I spending money? Like it was burning a hole in my pocket. I don't know. But I had no idea how to budget. I had no concept of managing money or dealing with finances. I think every adult needs to have like an experience with money where you accidentally like burn through a large sum of it and you go like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. That's horrifying. Now let's learn how to manage money. So I'm glad that that was mine and it wasn't like these horror stories where people are like, I racked up $60,000 of credit card debt. You know, like I'm glad that's not my cautionary tale. But still, learning to budget, and I do want to make a video on how I would make money and budget, as a music student, if I was starting out in music school, like the big thing is like, let's all go get a coffee. Because especially at my university, like literally across the street from the SOM was a coffee shop that was like really cute, and we would always be in there, and like it's not super expensive, but like it ain't cheap, and I spent so much money, so that should have definitely been in the budget. Yeah. Okay, my next piece of advice, and I know this is like maybe not the most popular, but that is, do not go into massive debt for a music degree. Girl, I know it's hard. Maybe you got into that big school and you really are like, it's a dream. Like you really are so like excited. But if it's gonna cost you like a lot of money and you're gonna be in massive debt from which you will never recover, don't recommend it. My first year, my teacher was retiring and she was like, I don't think there's anybody at this school who's gonna be good for you. Why don't you transfer to Carnegie Mellon, which is where they had taught for a while. And I was like, okay, and I didn't really know what that was. I didn't know about it. I looked at the tuition and it was like 60 grand a year for tuition. And then you also have room and board. I will be the first person to say that like my degree wasn't worth $20,000. And I didn't spend that much money on my degree, but like the idea that people are spending triple that on 1 year of tuition is crazy to me. Do not go into massive debt for your degree. First of all, we are in a field where it can take you some time to get established and to start to make income. Like, don't dig a hole that you're gonna start out in. I know that like I am very employed and I wanna make more content on how I am very employed because this is something that I'm very good at and it comes really naturally to me, and I think there's a method to it, right? But I know a lot of people who got the same degree as I did, very similar like levels of like life privileges, could be doing like very similar work to me, and like they're not. Like you're not a doctor. Like you're not going to be making 80K your first year out of the degree, you know? So do not go into huge debt for it. Nobody cares where you went to school if you're good at what you do. If you come from a family where 60 grand of tuition isn't a big deal, like per year, go for it. Go to your dream school. But if the reality is like that would make you take out a lot of student loans, go into massive debt, don't do it. I'm so glad that little 18-year-old me had no interest in going to a very expensive fancy school. I didn't apply to a single Ivy League. I did not do a Juilliard audition. I did not apply for the big music schools. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have been able to afford them. And so I'm really glad that that wasn't even something I was remotely interested in, because like I'm making good money right now, but the idea of like making my kind of money that I'm making and paying off that kind of debt, I'm like, girl, no. No. So this is just some of the advice that I would give you. If you enjoyed this, please let me know. I want to make more content like this because I think that music degrees are kind of like mystified. I would like to like unveil some of this so that if this is something that you're thinking about pursuing, you can look at it in a very like clear lens and get a really good sense of what you're getting yourself into. Now, with all this advice, I want to say I love my music degree. I 100% think that it was an absolutely great choice for me. I did not go into massive debt for my degree. If you want to get a music degree, it's a really wonderful choice. So if you have any questions about this, like please do not hesitate to reach out. I would be more than happy to kind of like hold your hand and talk to you about this whole process, because I know that it can be really scary, but if it's the right choice for you, I think you should just jump in. All right, that's it for me today. So I will see you later. Bye.